Hi guys, my name is Rebecca Vigil. I am the organizer for NYRA Colorado, and today we are here with House Representative Jacque Phillips and our own active member, Rahman Arab.
Hi everyone. We have 27 questions.
First, I just wanted to thank you for all the work that you do in the community, and I want to apologize for how I'm dressed because I was meeting with constituents today, literally outside. So I'll start there. What's the first question was what?
Do curfews unfairly target certain ages?
Absolutely. So curfews are, the thing is, when you do legislation, it's one size fits all, right? And the problem with curfews, and especially, for specific ages, like if you say 18 or even 16, in my House district, which is House District 31, Thornton, there's, like we have teen parents. And so, if you think about that, not every teenager is, living at home even. Sometimes we have teen parents and they need to be like, what if they have to take their baby to the emergency room or something like that? Is that a curfew violation? Like common sense would say no, but there could still be a law that says yes. So what I think about on that question regarding curfews is, what would be the exceptions to, curfew laws? And also what I always ask for legislation is, what's the problem we're trying to solve? So like with a curfew, what's the problem we're trying to solve? I think what we're trying to solve is kids that are in dangerous situations or, doing dangerous things. And for that, I don't think that a curfew is the answer to that. I think the answer to that in our neighborhood, we live down the street from each other. And so I think the answer to that in our neighborhood is a lot more some of the other work that we've done on the local level, what do teens have to do? And things like, when we made the basketball court, at Skyview that has censored lights, so kids could play at night. Mm-hmm. And what a great thing for a teenager. You can't sleep and you want to, get up and go play basketball. Like, I love that. And in our community, we don't have houses where, people have a basketball court at their house, right? So what can they do? Isn't it great that they would have the option to walk down and play basketball? Let's not punish them. But if it's like, if it's teenagers that are out, stealing cars, then that's the problem we're trying to solve.
Okay. So the next question is, should parents be responsible if their kids break curfews?
Yeah, okay. And that one comes up. That conversation happens a lot. If parents should be responsible, that one's hard too, because it almost needs to be a case by case. So first of all, when we think are parents responsible, that's assuming that kids, teenagers, we can say, are living with mom and dad. And we know that in our community, we have a lot of homeless, including homeless teenagers. So that's where those laws get really tricky, is if the parents are in one place, but the kids are someplace else, then it's hard to make law that just says parents. Because we don't have it's like you would spend more time talking about the definition of parents, right? Meaning, should they be responsible? Well, what if they're divorced? Is it mom or is it dad? Does somebody have a restraining order? Maybe the parents have passed away. Maybe it's foster care. So again, there's so many deeper situations that make it hard to make a one size fits all law.
Okay. So the next question is about drinking age. Do you believe that the age of 21 is a high, and why?
I like the drinking age at 21. I actually remember back in the early 80s when that federal law was passed to make it 21. And the reason why was because there were so many car accidents for drunk drivers under the age of 21, and it was costing the federal government a lot of money, because like on a federal highway or interstate, when there's a drunk driving accident, like it's very expensive, because you have to fix the road or fix the guardrails. You have to call out all your first responders. Drunk driving accidents are very expensive just for infrastructure, not to mention the cost of human life. And so the reason that drinking age was raised, because when I grew up it was 18, and so the reason it was raised to 21 as federal law was because of that. It was actually because of the number of drunk driving accidents involving drivers that were drunk under 21.
Okay. Should schools be allowed to control what students say online or give consequences to students for what they said online?
Yes, and that happens already. So as you know, I'm an education attorney, so I do a lot of bullying cases, and so should it becomes really hard to to do like rules and regulations for things that happen outside of school. But like even under Colorado, under our state law, like if something that a student does outside of school, they can still be held accountable for. So that when students are doing something online that can potentially impact anything at school. So for example, if there's terrible cases. So when people are telling a student, go kill yourself, and we do end up with a suicide, and that happens. And so should school be able to, like have some like regulation on that? Absolutely. Absolutely, because you're literally, you're saving kids' lives. You're protecting them. Now, do we want to violate, everybody's rights? Of course not. I'm a civil rights attorney, so of course we don't. Do we want to go that far? No. And frankly, schools don't have time or resources to monitor every, negative thing on social media. But there are lots of cases in which the school can be involved, because what happens is the way it impacts the school is like maybe if a student's being bullied online, then maybe they're not coming to school, or they have depression, they have anxiety, etc. And these are things that do impact the school. And so then, yes, we certainly do investigations and consequences.
Do students have a right to shape school policies?
I think students have a right to shape school policies, absolutely. But the school is the ultimate decision makers.
Okay.
But could they like have input? Yeah, absolutely, for sure. And I love the idea of students being active like you. And some of the work that you've done already at your high school, like those are great examples of how students can be involved in policy. And just like the bill that we ran with Horizon High School too, it's like even those students got to be involved on the state level to actually pass legislation. And I love that.
What role do you think students should play in shape school board decisions, and how can their voice be effectively represented?
Well, great question. So the one step is students, as you have done, students can go and just speak during public comment at a school board meeting. So that's a great first step. And then schools that, I hope they all do, but schools that have student council or whatever, there's different names for those organizations. But so schools that have a student council or a politics club, even debate, like at your school, like those are all great ways to influence. And I think that when student council is organized and well led, then they can go to their principal or whatever their system is, right? Mm-hmm. To have input and be like, hey, this is what we want. So it's really a matter of organizing, and there's power in numbers. So the big thing is like when one student goes to school board, that's going to have a lot less power than when 10 students go to the school board. And the same within your organization. It's like when you're, student council, debate club, politics club, if they've got 5 people going, that's a lot less powerful than if they have 30. So it's like the more people that can be involved, then the more power they're going to have over shaping policy.
Okay. So the next topic is about age discrimination in school.
Okay.
Do young people face unfair treatments because of their age?
For sure, yes. So for sure, do young people, are they treated unfairly because of their age? Yes, because it's another one that sometimes, like, you just don't, everyone's different. You don't know people's situation. So you can't think like, oh, every 16-year-old should be treated like this. Every 17-year-old should be treated like this, right? So are there times when they're treated unfairly? Yes, because like if you have a 16-year-old that's very responsible, like, goes to school, does well in school, has a job outside of school, is taking care of family members, like that's a great example of, somebody that's completely responsible. But then imagine, then they go to school, and if they're treated like, oh, like you have to go to timeout or whatever, or you have a lunch detention, like things like that. Like maybe they were late, because they were, at work, or they're dropping their siblings off to school and now they're late and now they have a lunch detention. Yeah, I think that's being treated unfairly because of your age. I think that when you're the highly responsible and accountable, that the age shouldn't matter. You have to consider individuals.
How will you keep a school safe?
Ooh, well, that's a priority for me. So I serve on the education committee. And so first of all, school, and I expert witness on school shootings. So school shootings are unpredictable. So like if we knew, oh, if this happens, there'll be a school shooting, then it would be easy to prevent, right? The problem is we don't know. There's no clear pattern to school shootings. You can't be like, oh, it would be this certain kind of, kid that would do a school shooting. That's the biggest problem. We don't know. And we end up punishing kids that actually, are safe. And then obviously Colorado, and then we miss the ones that we should have caught. So the best way to prevent a school shooting, one of the good ways is positive school climate. So all the stuff about, metal detectors and all that, we don't have good, as you know, I'm very data driven. I like research. And so we don't have good data on, that if you spend a bunch of money on security and on metal detectors, even, in Colorado, they talk about teachers having guns, strongly opposed to that. But all these things, there's still no data point to say, hey, this is how we'll prevent that, right? And so we're still looking for what could be preventive. But what we do know is that positive school climate matters, right? And so, you want to be able to, I like the idea of, having kids, kind of monitor each other and being like, hey, we're worried about this kid, et cetera. But at this point, what can we do to keep schools safe? And we do threat assessments. I'll probably do some legislation on that next session. But that's a process I've worked in a lot, is to do an accurate threat assessment for a student. Is this student a threat? High, medium, low. And that's been really important work and has changed a lot. So that, in the beginning, we'd be like, oh, the kid brought a gun to school, and we'd be like, yeah, a Nerf gun. That's how much we had to correct the threat assessment process. So one of the things we do is threat assessment. Disciplinary removal is also important. We have Smart School Discipline Act that we passed in 2018. So that's the stuff I work on.
What's your plan for supporting struggling students?
Oh, as far as legislatively, boy, we've passed some really good bills. When we talk about struggling students, we have students with disabilities. We have strong federal law. I'm worried about what's happening with the U.S. Department of Education. So now Colorado Department of Education is going to have to take over some of the protections for kids that we did have before people got doged at U.S. Department of Ed. And so that's one of the things. It's actually one of the bills that I'm running this session, is to make sure that we continue to have a process for discrimination of kids with disabilities. Another legislation that we always work on is to support mental behavioral health for students and teachers. We know that's important. And those are kind of the things that we'll continue to work on.
Okay. How will you handle budget cuts for schools?
Oh, well, I feel like I did that already. So last session, we passed the SFA, the School Finance Act. And so that's another 30-minute interview, actually. But on school finance, I have 2 school districts in my house district. And so I have regular meetings with the superintendents. In fact, we have our school district has Superintendent of the Year for that as well. So that's pretty cool. But so for school finance, I'm very closely aligned with the superintendents, the people that work, and the CEA, Teachers Union. And so when I work on school finance, I can have direct meetings with the people that are working on the actual budget, all the school finance.
Well, what's your approach to teacher support?
Well, we're running a bill right now for it's for para. So it's that's the teacher's retirement. And so we're making sure that teachers at approved facility schools have access to para, to the teacher's retirement. So that's one of the bills I'm running this session.
How will you improve local schools?
Yeah, the big one is School Finance Act for sure. And then, the work, I'm running a bill on discrimination for kids with disabilities. And then I'm running a bill on to make sure that teachers in the facility schools get a retirement benefit. And then I'm also running a bill to continue our open educational records so right now we have, for higher ed, we have access to free online textbooks. And so I'm running another bill to make sure that continues. So those are some of the things I'm working on.
Okay. How valuable are teachers for you as a House of Representative?
Well, first of all, I'm currently a licensed teacher. So, teachers are a priority for me. Absolutely, 100% priority.
So the next one is about youth in Colorado. What have you done for the youth of Colorado as a representative?
Lots of bills that came through Education Committee. I think my favorite bill was the one that the students ran from Horizon High School, which was identification of the state mushroom of Colorado. And the importance of the bill, obviously the mushroom is important, but the importance of the bill was, for the first time in the House District, we got students to actually go do the whole bill from start to finish, from introducing it to testifying on it. They were at the Capitol, we did meetings with them. And so I think that was one of the most important things that I did in my first session. Because what happened because of that is, like, right now, we're running another bill with high school kids from Highlands Ranch. Because once the kids start seeing, like, hey, look, here's a politician that will listen to us and that, will actually work with us and get things done. And so that's one of the most important things for me. Yes, we've run good legislation, but also just to know that students have a voice and that we can run specific legislation for the students. Like, that's been a huge priority of mine. As you know, it's super important to me to involve, young students. I'm a licensed teacher. That's what I care about. So that part's actually the most fun part for me.
How will you ensure that youth have a seat at the decision-making table and that our voices are heard?
Yeah. So one of the things is I'm thinking just from this interview that I want to encourage Adams 12 School Board needs to have a student on it. Same with Mapleton. I think that would be great. But also, I continue to encourage and connect with especially the high schools, to just be like, do you have a politics club? Are you doing debate? Are you, like student council? And just to get connected with those groups. And maybe some schools don't even have those groups, but to make sure that they have those groups. And those are started from the inside, like what you did at your high school. But it comes from the inside, not from me, but just from these kind of conversations where it's like, hey, you should go to your school and see if you can do this and see if you can do that. Every now and then there's a little bit, like the ways I can connect you guys, like I connected you with the one school board member. So that, those are good ways too. But it's really community based. It's so grassroots, and it's a lot of work. Because for me, it's like, I want to make sure, like, I follow up on things, I talk with the principals, school board members, and the students. And so that's the best way for me to make sure that we continue to involve the young people is that. And all the things that we've already done, like this summer, we went to so many events, and that's just a matter of, just texting people on our text thread and being like, hey, tonight is the movie in the park. Hey, tonight is this. All these community events, like seeing students come to those community events, it's the first time. Like what we did last summer with having everyone involved, including NYRA, and even just all the work on NYRA, like that all just happens that's organizing. I think people go, oh, I'm a community organizer. It's just organizing, hey, here's the events, and then we all go there together. And then from that, there's all those other branch off like meetings and things that people care about that continue to happen in the community. Like right now they're doing flock cameras. So there's another whole group working on flock cameras. But so that way, that's how you get heard, is you start off with, just putting people together.
Okay. What's your future plan for youth? Have you taken any steps to accomplish those goals?
I think certainly a lot of work, since I was elected, but even before that, when I was on Thornton City Council, and Thornton City Council has a youth group too, but that's one that, what happens is you get all the different groups. And so my work has been to try and bring them together and to also get people to follow their passion, right? So that's why you get kind of these branch off groups, because it'll be like, oh, we're interested in, the one group wanted to do, something for the homeless. Okay, we're interested in, we just want to be a community advice. If we have people follow their passions and interests, but then we also bring them together, like for the big events. Like you see, like when we go to stuff like Thornton City Council meetings where something big is happening, and even, members of like just our informal group, like they'll go speak. We've done that before, so have others. And so my work is just constant. Get people together and critical, get to know people. So that's a big one too for me is, like you go to people's houses, right? Like you have to get to know people. And then the more, and right now I'm doing all the talking because it's an interview, but like how I always coach people too is I always go, be interested, not interesting, right? So it's like, you got to ask a ton of questions. It's how I got to know you. It's like just, asking a ton of questions and legit being interested in other people. And so when we do that, that's how we build our group, which we have.
What data will you use to inform decisions about youth programs, and how will you ensure it's accurate and unbiased?
As far as data, like I have a great opportunity for that at the Capitol because I can ask for whatever I want. So whenever, like we passed a financial literacy bill, and then that one, it was coming to committee, and I asked specifically to the governor's office. I just said, I want to see a map of Colorado, which schools teach financial literacy and which schools do not. And so that's how, like, I have really good access to data. How do I make sure I'm unbiased? That's just, I'm very well connected with the community. So because, like I'll hear from the community, even, yes, I do outreach, but when there are things happening in the community, like I hear from them, but that's just because of it. It's constant connection. It's constant, meetings and supporting people, and whether it's kids, whether it's small business. So to be unbiased, I stay in touch with the community. Because like if we're passing some bill and I'm talking to you and like you're a voice I would listen to, and and you're telling me, like I don't like that legislation because this. That's how I can be unbiased, is just by listening.
Okay. So the next topic is about community engagement and improvement. What's your plan to make our community safe?
Oh, well, I tried to pass a bill that was, it's a bill that was already in existence for 40 years, but it was it was to increase a penalty. So like what we had a problem a few years back with a lot of stolen cars in our neighborhood, and when we increased the penalties, oh surprise, the cars didn't get stolen anymore. And I'm typically I don't support increased penalties because I've worked a lot of school to prison pipeline is my work, right? So like I'm not looking for people to get in trouble. I understand the problem with mass incarceration, but I also live in a high crime neighborhood. And so I want to make sure the community is safe. So I tried to pass a bill. The bill was killed, but I tried to pass a bill just to change. It was a bill about barricading, and it was just to change the charge for barricading used to be a felony. A few years back, they changed it to a misdemeanor. And then we had a whole bunch more barricading instances in our neighborhood. So the sheriff came to me, and all we wanted to do is change that penalty back to a felony, which is what it was before. That's it. There was no other change to the bill. But politics always happens. And so then they came in and said it was that I was running a bill to stop protests. So I was like, oh, that's not true. The bill already existed for 40 years. So then I just I said, okay, we'll make an amendment that says this is not about protests. And then still my political enemies were like, oh, it's about free speech. I was just like, no, literally one thing was changed on the bill. And it came from a constituent that actually had a barricading incident. It was very, very scary. But that bill got killed. So what is my plan to make the community more safe? That's probably going to be pushed back to local government. So that's going to be more, City of Thornton and the council members. We do a lot with engagement team, and what we've set up a lot of community groups, and I'll continue to do all that work, but that's not connected to state legislation. So like all the work we do on the ground that we've done for more than a decade, all that work will continue to happen. Like whether I'm elected or not, like I'm always doing this work. Okay. And so we'll continue the local safety steps that we've taken with the local police. But after having that experience last session and not being able to pass a bill that our community believed would have made our community safer, it was not my best day, obviously, because it's hard for me to come back and have to tell people that the thing that what my constituents wanted, they wanted that change to just go back to where it was before. And even the police were all there testifying. They wanted it also. And then unfortunately, I couldn't get it through because people changed it into it was an anti-protest bill. So that's how politics works. So I think my work on community safety is going to be at the local level, not at the cabinet.
Okay. What's your approach to handling community feedback for youth, students, and residents?
So I respond to all constituents. Whether we get over 1,000 emails. But so from the email, I always offer, like, hey, you want to talk about this? Hey, happy to meet. Hey, let's do this. And so, like even today, like I spend weekends at the churros place down the street. So at the coffee shop, I always offer to meet constituents face to face. And that's how we've been able to build a really strong network. We're very well organized, as you know, in our community. And a lot of that started with when people email me, I just say, hey, let's meet for coffee. And so that's one of the ways that I engage, or even if it's a phone call. Like even if people are angry about, certain legislation, I'm going to be the first one to pick up the phone and talk to them about it.
That's a great way. How will you make our community more resilient for youth?
Love that. I would like to continue to build the networks that we've already built, right? with NYRA, with just, the group that we run around with. Some of it is campaigning. So there's also campaign stuff. I think we should build with the city of Thornton has a youth group that's not engaged, like the groups that we run with are, and like the way that, our stuff is like, it's legit just us. It's just like, we just keep adding people, right? And so I think to continue to add students, it's about, for sure, like I always like to be involved. So it's like, I love to go to community events. I was at North Glen High School the other day doing their problem-based learning stuff. Like for me, it's just about being on the ground, involved, showing up at the schools, going to their events. I just went to a graduation for a couple weeks ago, the December graduation down the street. I get invited to all the graduations. So for me, if the way to work with students, for me is like, I have to be involved, right? And so it's like, it's about showing up. So it's like, I've shown up at stuff for more than a decade. That's why it's a little bit easier for me now because I've been doing this for so long. Okay. And so like, I'm already connected. I know the people. So yes, showing up is the first part. And then really empowering. And the whole thing about not just listening, because a lot of politicians say that, and I listen. And I always just go, listening doesn't matter if you don't take the next step. So it's like, yeah, I can listen and then I can go do something else. That's not right. You have to listen and then take the next step. And that's the way to, just to build the things that we want for the communities to continue to do that.
Okay. Does Colorado plans to enact any age-based social media bans? And do you believe that age-used social media bans are justified, or are they just unfair towards young?
There's going to be this is another 30-minute conversation, but there'll be, there were 2 AI bills that we addressed, not just in session, but then because of the veto, but then also in special session. So is something coming? We go back on the 14th. So I don't know what's coming for social media, but I don't know if they're coming in with a bang, because it's so hard to do. You have to watch Australia, because Australia just did it. So I don't know if Colorado's coming in with a ban, but I suspect they're coming in with, for sure they're going to be working on AI. AI is going to be the big, that'll be one of the big focus of this session. So yeah, something's coming.
Okay. Does Colorado have any laws relating to mandatory phone bans in schools? And is it banning phones in schools justifies or unfair? What's justified and what's unfair?
Yeah, so we passed legislation last session for because we have Colorado is big local control state, right? We have almost 200 school districts. So we just passed legislation to say that all it says is you have to have a phone policy. That's it. It just says you have to have a policy. So it doesn't say that way. Each school district can decide. Our school district says no cell phones. Our school district says the teacher can decide. Our school district says everyone can have a cell phone. So what we passed this session was that you must have a cell phone policy. And the reason why that's important is because, again, that'll give us data points so that, now we can start tracking which schools have which policy and how it's impacted the students' mental health and achievement for the district. Because some school districts did not have a cell phone policy. So sometimes kids were getting suspended. Oh, you can't have your phone during this class. And then everyone's like, yeah, but what about the other class? And then everyone's like, what's the policy? And so we don't know. And so that's why we did that, because we're like, okay, everyone has to have a policy, and then we can take further steps if we want to.
Okay, yeah, we're done with the questions, and thank you so much for answering these questions.
Okay, Rahman, thank you. I'm so glad you're involved in the community library.
Thank you.